You are listening to a Freedom Student Ministry podcast.
We're going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're in a circle, so that's different. But I'm going to share tonight out of my own life a long testimony of what God's been doing in my life. And I have notes here because even though it's my life, like I want to make sure I remember the details because I want you to hear them. Because this story is a story of God's goodness. Say God's goodness.
God's goodness.
Say God's faithfulness.
God's faithfulness.
And His realness. Thanks for repeating after me. I really appreciate that, guys. Note the sarcasm! Okay, so Easter is coming up, like we said. And before we can celebrate Easter, we need to celebrate this coming Sunday. What's this coming Sunday? Do you guys remember what it's called? Yes, but there's a special name for it. Palm Sunday. Why is it called Palm Sunday? Say it again, Bex.
He came in on a donkey, and the people that in the city that he came into laid down palm tree leaves, not palm tree leaves, but palm leaves, branches things, and then he walked along.
Yes, Kate? But you were looking. Oh.
I was saying palm.
I got you. Palm tree branches. So Jesus, because you said he, but Jesus. This Sunday is when we celebrate Jesus coming into Jerusalem. It was the week before he was going to be murdered. Yes, murdered on the cross. So we celebrate that. The people were really excited that he was coming into Jerusalem, and they literally put palm branches down on the ground to be an honorary red carpet as he came through on a donkey. And it's like, why does it matter that he came through on a donkey? Well, say Zechariah. Zechariah. Not Zachariah like your brother. Zechariah, right? He was a prophet in the Old Testament hundreds of years before Jesus was born, and he prophesied, which means God told him in his spirit, and then he spoke out that Jesus was going to ride in Jerusalem on a donkey. And then he did. So Jesus was fulfilling that prophecy. He was like, hey guys, I'm real. I'm doing something that was prophesied hundreds of years ago, and stuff like that. So next Friday is called what? The Friday before Easter is called?
Good Friday.
Good Friday. And why do you think it's called Good Friday?
Because it's good.
It is, but why is it good?
Because it's good. Friday's good for everyone.
Friday is good for most people, unless it's yeah, anyway. So it was 3 days before Jesus rose again. So what happened on Good Friday? And somebody besides Becca answer, because I can tell you're chomping at the bit. Somebody give me an answer. You guys know. What's Good Friday? This isn't a test. You're not getting graded. Nope. Good Friday is the day that Jesus was murdered on the cross. Good Friday. That was the day he was. No.
Oh, it's Sunday when he comes back.
Yes. So Friday. Exactly. Why is it good? It's good for us because he died and took all our sins with him. And it's good for us because we know that he didn't stay dead. He didn't stay dead, right, guys? He came back to life. So anyway, those are some days that we're going to be celebrating coming up. And I'm really excited. It's a really fun season. And to lead into this amazing week, I want to tell you what Jesus has been doing in me. But I'm going to ask that you guys would be respectful. And what respectful means is you're not having side conversations with your friends and not having conversations across the room with your friends. So let me tell you a little bit about this. First, I'm going to pray. Jesus, thank you so much for tonight and that you brought this family together. And I pray, God, that you would speak through my words tonight and that each heart would be impacted and that you'd help my heart to be impacted too as I just remember what you've done. And I just praise you, God, because you're so good. Amen. So, for the past 12 years or so, I've had 3 really deep times of depression. Really, really, really deep. Depression and anxiety. And maybe in your head you're like, I know what that's like. The first one was when I was a freshman or sophomore in college. And the second one was when I was about 26, so maybe 5 years ago or so. And the third one was actually began last November, the end of last November, so just like 4 or 5 months ago. And each time, something set off the depression or anxiety. Something caused me to go into it. The first one was I was in college and I was afraid of my future, like what's going to happen. And I wasn't trusting God for my future. And the second one was because my sister had gotten married before me, and I'm the oldest, and she also was about to have the first grandkid. And I was really jealous and worried that I was never going to get married, which I'm still not, but I trust God. And I was never, I was just really bummed that my sister, who was younger than me, was getting to have those opportunities before I was. Maybe you can identify with being jealous of someone. But it sent me into a spiral. And then this last one happened just with some personal things in my life that I'm not going to share tonight. But, and it's been the worst this last time through. Maybe you didn't know that, but for the past 5 months, sadly, your youth pastor's been in one of the hardest times of her life. But it's the faithfulness of God that's got me through. But each time I kind of knew, like I said, what set it off, but I didn't know what caused it. I didn't know the root. And I was going to show these pictures earlier, but I forgot. Would you grab the lights one more time, please? I wanted to show you guys pictures of myself during those seasons because I want to give you a visual. So this first one was on when I was a freshman or a sophomore in college. And you can see me up there, little Ericka, 20 years old, maybe 19. And then on the bottom, I'm on the far right next to the guy. I have curly short hair. And that's me, that's my sophomore year down there. Both of those are my sophomore year of college, so 19 or 20. This next picture is me and my brother walking down the aisle at my sister's wedding. I know, check it out. I was 24 or 25 that year, and I was really jealous of my sister, and that wedding was really hard. Like, it was fun, but jealousy totally took over and just ruined the experience for me, and I'm really bummed about that. This is me when I was 25 or 26 in the other deep depression time. So this is because of my sister getting married and my jealousy toward her, and then her about to have a baby and my jealousy about that. That's my good friend Rachel. She's been to this youth group before a couple years ago. She spoke. And then this is me. We're about to go snowshoeing. No, that's my friend Matt. He came on a hike with us. I don't think any of you were part of our youth group at that point. And then Renee, she's been here too. And Rachel Baltazar, that's one of my old roomies. Anyway, so that's when I was also experiencing some deep depression. So you can go ahead and get the lights. So, like, I look happy on the outside, right? On the inside, I was really struggling, really, really badly. I also experienced some depression in high school. I remember feeling just sad, and I didn't know why. And I didn't say anything to anybody because I didn't really know it was depression, but looking back, I'm like, that was depression. And then I also experienced separation anxiety. So, like, I skipped out on trips sometimes that, like, our youth group did. I skipped out on a camp, and I skipped out on a band trip that the band did at high school because I was too scared of leaving my family because of my anxiety. So needless to say, it's been a tough road for me with lots of valleys. But there's also been lots of mountaintop experiences that I've had too, lots of good experiences. I don't want you to think that my whole life was just like this deep valley. There were other really good things in my life. And when I was 26, I started going to counseling. So this is like 4 or 5 years ago, right? Started going to counseling and started taking what's called antidepressant medication. So it's medication that helps level me out. Our bodies, we're all born with something called serotonin in our brains. And it helps, it's like the joy part of our brains, or not joy. In a way, it's that. Huh?
Isn't it like the happiest chemical?
Sure, yeah, they might call it the happiest chemical, yeah. We're all born with that. And sometimes when we have a traumatic experience, it can empty that out, but it only trickles back in. And my depression kind of caused me to have a traumatic experience, and the serotonin was just trickling back in. So I needed an antidepressant to get me leveled out again. And it helped with that. And the counseling helped me too, but it didn't get to the root of the issue. Like like a tree has the biggest root. It has other roots, but it has the biggest root. We didn't get to that yet. We kind of got to some outside peripheral stuff, but we didn't get to that big root. And then I met a guy, and I really liked him. And I was like, I called my counselor. I was like, hey, I'm done with counseling. I met this guy. Everything's okay now. It wasn't exactly like that. But I was trusting in this guy to make me feel happy, to make me feel better. And I did get better, not 100% better. But, counseling helped, the antidepressant helped, my friends helped, and I started to get into a better place. God helped a little bit, and he could have helped more if I would have turned to him more. Does that make sense? He didn't come and rescue me. He wanted me to turn to him, and I didn't turn to him as much as I should have. So I only experienced anxiety after that time. So this was 5 years ago. I only experienced it every so often. I thought I was doing a lot better. And then maybe last October, I started experiencing a little bit more heavier anxiety. It's kind of situational. I just started a new job. So I work here for 30 hours at the church each week, and then I do 10 hours at Spanaway Lake High School. So I was now 40 hours. I was learning a new job. I had lots more responsibilities, and it got me pretty anxious. And then I just started to get anxious more and more and more until one morning, late November, I woke up. It was a Monday morning, and I woke up at 3 a.m. or something, and I was gripped with anxiety. It was like a panic attack. I didn't know what to do. I was just praying. I didn't sleep good. And when Wendy woke up, because y'all know that I live with Wendy and Jay, I think, Pastors Wendy and Jay. When Wendy woke up, I made sure to talk to her and be like, I need help. I have to see a counselor today. And she had been telling me in the weeks before that, you should go see a counselor. It's not a big deal. And I just really didn't want to. And I was really slow at trying to find a counselor. And I called one that my sisters were seeing, and she wasn't even going to be available until December 10th. And this was November 26th or something like that. So she wasn't going to help me. So here is miracle number 1 in my story. There's been lots of miracles because anything that God does that humans can't do is a miracle, right? But here's the first miracle of this particular part of the story. I tell Wendy I need a counselor, and she remembers that Jay, her husband, had a card of a counselor. And so I didn't know this, she went and called that counselor while I was in the shower and got me an appointment that day at 3 p.m. I needed to see somebody that day, or else I didn't know what was going to happen. I was on the brink. I was on the edge. And so the miracle is, that's a miracle that I got in to see somebody, because lots of counselors are in high demand. Or they don't have that day, same day appointments. This counselor had given Jay his business card at a pastor's meeting, and then Jay gave it to Wendy, or let Wendy know about it. So that's how we got connected. I went in and saw him that day, and he's like, I know your dad. What? Out of all the counselors in the Pierce County area, he knew my dad. That was pretty insane. But anyway, that started that started my counseling journey this time around, right? And that was in late November. A lot of people, unfortunately, and a lot of TV shows and stuff, they have this negative view of counseling. There's a stigma attached to counseling, which means a negative thought process about it or something. But let me tell you, God gave us each other to work things out in our lives, and you should not be ashamed if you end up going to see a counselor, because it is so helpful, especially when it's a Christian counselor, because they are gifted and trained in helping us understand what is going on in my brain. Have you ever felt so confused about what's going on in your brain, you just wish somebody could help you pick the pieces apart and lay them out and go, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this. That's what counselors are trained to do, and they help you with deep emotional issues or hurts or wounds or things like that. They also help you if you're just having relational trouble. If I really can't figure out how to relate to my friend Rachel, we might need to see a counselor, which is either someone we go pay or go to Wendy and be like, Wendy, can you help us figure out our friendship? It's so helpful, and I really think that everybody should see a counselor at some point in their lives, because we are not perfect people, right? We do not have these perfect lives. We all have some hurt in our lives, and seeing somebody that can help us work through that is so beneficial. Anyway, that's my soapbox. But let's fast forward a couple months. So I was I was talking to you about early December, late November, early December. A month and a half ago, I went to a counseling session with my mom and dad. Normally I'd been going by myself. And actually, Wendy took me to a lot of counseling sessions early on because I couldn't go by myself. I was so deep in depression and anxiety. And so she started taking me, and that was really helpful to have a friend going with me. But then I brought my mom and dad in. And I learned that my mom, through the session, my mom has been depressed my entire life. Like, I didn't know that. I knew that she had been depressed later on in my life, but I didn't know that my entire life she'd experienced that. And I learned also that my dad had been physically abused when he was a kid. And he didn't even realize that that was the word to use for what he experienced. So he learned something new as well, that he had been abused. And because my mom had been depressed and because my dad had been abused, both of them kind of hid their emotions. And they weren't very good, unfortunately, at expressing love to me and my siblings in like a physical way or in like a verbal affirmation way. So I didn't get the physical affection that I needed and probably that they wanted to give but didn't know how. And I didn't get the like a verbal affirmation, just like I don't know if your parents do this, I hope they do, but like, you're a child of God, like you're valuable, you're worth it. Like, I didn't get stuff like that. And that really kind of messed me up. And I learned that that was the root of my issues. Praise the Lord, I finally figured out what the root of my issues was. Why I'd been going into these depressions and these times of anxiety. It's because of just this, because of sin that's been in the world since Adam and Eve. Like, we're not perfect. My parents aren't perfect. Now, they're Christians that love Jesus and they love each other and they've been together, my whole life. But they're not perfect. And so, and that's okay. And so I figured that out. And it made so much more sense to me about how I was raised and why I was feeling the way I was. So enter miracle number 2. While my dad and I were in Arizona a month and a half ago, do you guys remember when I was gone? Mm-hmm. We were visiting his parents down in Arizona. And out of the blue, seemingly, my grandfather goes up to my dad and he asks for forgiveness for the way he treated my dad. And my grandfather loves Jesus now. He didn't when he treated my dad like that and his siblings. But he just felt convicted and went up to my dad and asked for forgiveness, which was huge. So I can only imagine that that is changing how my dad thinks and how he's going to start loving me and my siblings better. I'm hopeful that it will help with that. So it's super, super powerful. And now we come to the good part. So last weekend, I was at this thing called Heart Change. It was a 4-day workshop, and it was intense. I went in wanting to gain some healing, and I also went in wanting to receive the love of God for me. Like, I can sit here normally, and I can believe that God has love for each of you, but it's harder for me to believe that he has it for me. Just because of the way I was raised. Just because I didn't get the affection and affirmation I needed when I was a kid. I didn't think I was worth it. I thought I was insignificant. Like, that was my root lie, like that I'm insignificant. And maybe you have a root lie. I challenge you to figure out what that is. But if you're believing a lie about yourself, like you're insignificant, you're not worth it, you're not valuable, that's from the evil one, and that's not true. It's just not true. The truth is that you're loved, you're cherished, you're chosen by God. And being at that workshop helped me realize that my root lie was that I was walking around telling myself that I was insignificant. Like, people didn't care about me, God didn't care about me. As your youth pastor, I was thinking that stuff. Now, I still believe in God and I still can preach God, but deep down I was hurting. You know what I'm saying? And this weekend was hard because we're getting to the deep, root stuff of us kind of, crazy, hard stuff. But it was also amazing because it was literally, you guys, it was the most unique, beautiful, powerful experience I've ever had in my life. So let me explain it a little bit so you have an idea of what was going on. And I don't have any pictures because we weren't allowed to have our phones in the main sessions, which is good. there's 45 people. Then there's like 25 other people that are assistants. We call them TAs, like teachers' assistants. And they led our small groups and they helped out during the large group sessions. And I have never seen the love of Jesus so present in people's eyes before than I saw when I was there. Every single person that was a TA, when they looked at you and you were sharing your story or you were sharing a hurt, they would cry with you. Like their eyes had like constant tears. They were literally, to me, like Jesus walking around. They were so much like him, and they had so much care and concern for us. And they were literally in mourning for us because they were sad for what we'd been through and what we were sharing and what choices we'd made as a result of what we'd been through. You know what I'm saying? It was so powerful. And they also hugged me a lot, which I really needed. Because, like I said, I didn't get that as much. And there was just a lot of healing that happened for me through their hugs and through the look in their eyes. It was super powerful. And we went through lots of lectures and small groups and stuff. We were also given an opportunity to just give God the stuff that we were keeping in between us and God. Now check this out. I didn't realize that I needed to forgive my parents. I never realized that I needed to forgive my parents. And maybe you've had some issues with your parents, and maybe your parents don't live with you, and maybe your parents aren't alive, or maybe you don't know where they are. But it's amazing that you can forgive them even if you're not around them. I forgave my mom and my dad on Friday night, and I wasn't around them, I wasn't with them, and they may not ever know the depth to which I went to forgive them. But through God's help, I was able to fully forgive my mom. I'm not fully there with my dad yet, but I forgave my mom, and then I bawled my eyes out because I was so sad about the life she's had to live. I had so much compassion for her. She's had to live a life depressed, and I don't know why, and it's probably not easy. But I forgave her, and I felt so much freedom. Let me tell you the coolest part of all. This is the third miracle. Do you guys know Julia? Yeah. Her new stepmom just married her dad. Her name's Ericka too, if you didn't know that. And they're my neighbors. And I went to Heart Change with them. And on Saturday night, I went up to Ericka, which is so weird to call someone your name. Have you ever had to do that? It's super weird. You probably have most of all Rachel. There's lots of Rachels. It's super weird, but I was like, Ericka, I'm feeling really anxious. Could you just remember to pray for me? I wasn't even asking her to pray for me right then. I just wanted her to know that I was feeling anxious and I needed her to pray for me. So we sit down on the stairs away from the other people in the house. This is when we're back at the house we were staying in because this was in Vancouver, Washington. And she takes my hand just to pray for me, and she starts praying for me. And then Holy Spirit starts speaking through her. And she's like, Ericka, where do you see Jesus right now? So I want all of you just for a second to close your eyes. Just trust me. Just close your eyes for a second. Just for a second. Come on. I want you to think about where you picture Jesus right now. Do you picture him in the room? Do you picture him in heaven? Do you picture him in your head? Do you picture him in your heart? Is he on a cross? Is he in a fancy church? Do you see him in the Bible? Pick one location where you feel like that's where you see him right now. Just think about it. You don't have to tell me. Okay, you can open your eyes. So when Ericka asked me that, I saw him in my head. And she goes, well, I see him on the ground in front of you. And he's sitting there and he's just holding your foot. And he's crying. And that made me start to cry. She goes, he's just waiting for you. He's just waiting for you to receive his love. I was like, I don't know how to receive his love. And maybe you felt that way before too. I don't know how to just, okay, God, here's your love. I don't know how to receive it. And then she went into, she said something like, Ericka, can you see the pain you have from how your mom raised you. And I was like, yeah, I can see that pain. I don't know how I could see it, but you know how you can just imagine things? And I could just imagine the pain from how my mom treated me. And she said, can you hold it? And I was, or no, she says, what color is the pain? Which that sounds weird, but literally I could see the pain as black. And my eyes were closed, I was crying. And it was in my heart. And she said, can you hold that pain? And I was like, yeah, I can hold it. Crying, remember the whole time. I know you guys have never seen me cry, but I did, I promise. And then she's like, can you give it to Jesus? And so I literally took the pain and I handed it to Jesus, who was, as she said, at my feet. And it's not like I actually saw him there, but it's like in the spirit, she's like, he's just right at your feet. So I just kind of pretended, did a motion of handing it to Jesus. And then I just bawled, like harder than I have ever cried, but it was so healing. Sometimes we just need to cry because it brings healing. It's like this cleansing. And it was the most amazing experience that I've ever had in my entire life. It might sound really out of place and weird to you, but it was how God worked on me in the moment to bring healing about my mom. And then she said, then Ericka said, do you want to go lay down? And I was like, nope, because I was sleeping on an air mattress in the living room, and there was like 5 people in there, and I was like, I can't do that. Like, I'm just a mess right now. So I literally felt like I saw Jesus beckoning me up the stairs. So I was like, okay, so I went up and I spent some time with him, just crying and everything. And then Julia came up, and she just prayed with me and stuff, and it was really, really powerful. And I felt so much peace after that moment. And because I had chosen to forgive my mom, which many of you might need to choose to forgive somebody in your life, and because I had chosen to take the pain that I experienced and give it to Jesus, which I didn't know I needed to do that. I didn't know I needed to give Jesus my pain. I didn't understand that. But because I chose to do those things as I was led into doing them, I received so much freedom. So much freedom. And if you've ever felt bound up and anxious, and you've also felt like peace, like this is like 100 times that peace. Like on Monday, I've never felt Jesus so close to me in my entire life. And now I'm super, like, a lot of okay, so think about it this way. Think about a tree that has a really big root called insignificance. And think about the little roots being other things that go along with insignificance. I'm not worthy. I'm not valuable. God doesn't love me. And then think about the fruit that's going to grow from that tree. It's not going to be very healthy, is it? It's going to be really unhealthy fruit. It's going to be stuff like low self-esteem. It's going to be stuff like I'm comparing myself to others because I want to feel good about myself because nobody else has told me that I'm good. It's things like that. And it's like God ripped a root out and replaced it with himself and gave me a freedom that is possible for all humans. It's possible for us to live on this earth and have God inside of us and feel really at peace and to feel really confident about who we are in him and to have a positive self-image. And I'm not just telling you that because I know that, but because I've experienced that. And that's something that I want for all of you guys, for all the people in our church. And that doesn't mean that today I stand here and I am absolutely perfect. I'm going to be honest with you, Tuesday and today I've had anxiety because there's still more in me that needs to come out and be given to the Lord so that I'm done with that and I'm healed and I'm at peace. I still need to work on forgiving my dad and giving the pain of how he treated me, which honestly wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like the affection that I needed. I still need to hand that pain over to him, to God. But I'm telling you this as a testimony of what God has been doing in my life, and I just want to be super honest with you guys, so that's what I'm doing. And Jesus did this for me in a way that I did not expect, and he's going to do stuff for you in a way that you don't expect. But I'm going to say though that you got to seek him out, because he's so good. Like He's so, so good. He did this for me. He can do this for you. But seek him out. Spend time building a relationship with him by reading the Word, by hanging out in small groups with us. If we hang out with you, like let's hang out and talk about stuff. If you have questions, ask us questions. With Jesus is the only way to live. I'm serious, guys. I've tried other things. I tried other things to numb the pain, to help me to feel better. Nothing else works except for Jesus. And I want to tie it in to the cross, because Jesus worked in a way in me that I didn't expect. And he did something that the world didn't expect. So Jesus, another thing we call him is King. He's the King. Yet the King came and put on a human body, which, let's be honest, there's some things wrong with our bodies, right? They're not always so comfortable to be in because we get gas, right? We're really hungry, so we got to keep feeding ourselves. We're subject to cancer and injury and things like that, but Jesus decided to come anyway, in a body. And then he was murdered. Like, he was killed in a way that, like, lowly thieves and lowly robbers were killed. Yet he was a king. So he came in a way we didn't expect. And he did something we didn't expect. We thought, and when I say we, I mean like the early Christians, we thought that a king was going to come and, like, destroy the old kingdom, like the old king that was on earth, and, like, reign there and, like, make everything better for everybody. But that's not how he came. He came in an unexpected way. But it was the right way. It was the perfect way for all humanity. And it has the opportunity to change our lives if we say yes to him. If we don't say yes to him, it doesn't mean anything to us, and we're going to live kind of a crappy life, to be honest. If we say yes to him, we've got the confidence of God inside of us. We have God living inside of us. And if we say yes to him and pursue him, then he's going to move from just an idea in our head and just knowledge to our hearts, like he did for me this weekend. So tonight, we're going to do some worship. But after we do worship, we're going to have Mark and I praying for you guys. And Mark and I will pray for each person who wants prayer individually. Or Mark and I will pray for that one person together. If you have unforgiveness in your heart and you want to forgive tonight, even if you think it's going to be hard, we're going to be here for you and help you pray through that. If you have pain in your heart that you need to hand over to God, we're going to pray with you, and we'll be here for you for that. If you have physical pain in your body, we'll pray for you, and we'll pray that leaves your body. And if you just need prayer for something else not related to what we talked about, we will pray for you. And Rachel mentioned this earlier, actually. If you have been prayed for up here before or in other areas, and you don't feel like it worked, don't let that keep you from being prayed for again. There are things that I've prayed for over and over and over again, like my healing and the way that I was healed this weekend, and it took months to happen. But it happened. And it was not in the way that I expected. But I'm so thankful it happened. I was crying on Monday because I was so grateful that Jesus did that for me. So I'm just going to finish with, Jesus is real, he's good, and he has good for you guys, and for me.
You have been listening to a Freedom Student Ministry podcast.